Hi, and welcome to episode 18 of Anniversary Edition. So today we're going to be talking about Dune, which celebrates its 35th anniversary this year. As always, obviously we're going to spoil this film, so if you haven't seen it, book half a day, go watch it, and listen afterwards. So I'm Sophie, and today I am here with
Tom
and Adam.
So to give you like an overview of the movie, it's a 1984 science fiction film written and directed by David Lynch and based on the 1965 novel by Frank Herbert. So I tried to kind of write like a sentence synopsis.
No, I want the whole synopsis. Give it to me.
I just didn't even know where to start. So I've written, we follow Paul, oh God, how'd you say his surname? Atreides, as he travels with his family to Arrakis. Chaos ensues in a galaxy-wide quest for power and to control the distribution of the spice, which is vital for space travel.
Lose the "the," it's cleaner.
Okay, noted.
No one got that social network reference?
No.
No? Okay.
Oh, no, I've not seen the film.
Oh,
I'm assuming it was the Facebook.
Oh, yeah, of course,
sure.
yeah.
And it's just
It's quoting Justin Timberlake for you there.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Oh, but JT. So yeah, that's kind of an overview, I think, of the film. General vibes. What's everyone thinking? Tom, I'm going to start with you.
Straight to top line vibes.
Straight to top line vibes. Come on.
Well, I'm going to add a little something into about specifically the edition of the film that we watched.
Okay.
Just because, so when we were talking about doing this film, I was like, yeah, I've got that on DVD, so that's fine. We can watch that. And what I did, I had in my head that it was some sort of special edition.
Okay.
What I didn't realise was it was the special TV edition.
Right.
Which they added in like half an hour.
Oh wow,
extra.
They needed that.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
exactly. So, and it's also like the one that is most reviled by everybody. So
we've watched the worst version possible.
Absolutely watched the worst version possible.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is credited as an Alan Smithy film because
Sure.
David Lynch took his name off it.
Okay.
So it's that bad. Like
Right.
that's the thing. My top line overview was it's a very dense book that's badly adapted into a film that it's a bad movie because it doesn't do this book and the story justice because they didn't strip it down enough.
Okay. Have you read the book?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But
We've read books like this, right?
I have,
this is
yeah.
Asimov.
Yeah, it's
Esque.
that. Yeah, and like Heinlein and
Grand
Arthur Clarke, that
space
kind of big
opera.
Yeah,
Yeah, like epic sci-fi.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Asimov's.
They don't make those.
No,
anymore,
I've read
but
Asimov's Foundation series.
It reminded me so much of sort of like a book that would be in the middle of the Foundation series.
Exactly. Yes. So my
Like
top
Caves
line
of
is
Steel, Dune.
yeah. So my top line on this is what would have happened if the first Star Wars movie had been a Phantom Menace.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because it's all of the boring politics stuff that no one cares about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you'd started that Star Wars saga with Phantom Menace, there wouldn't have been another movie.
Oh no.
Because no one was interested in that side of it. And I think that's
Would have
the
been
issue
John
with
Carter.
it. Exactly. Yeah, that's the other thing that I would draw a comparison to. So it's like, yeah, they go too much into the politics of it.
Okay.
When you have your Luke Skywalker / Neo character.
Yeah.
And you have that story. You have the
just
story
start
of
with him, right?
of Star Wars / The Matrix, which they could have just used that story up. But I guess then it would have been very similar to Star Wars.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Adam, how about you? Top line.
Top line.
Yeah.
Dune is swashbuckling fun. Admittedly over way too long. I think it did need to be a long movie. There's a lot to do. But this really does. It amazed me that I looked and realised I'm watching this film for 2 hours and I wasn't sure anything had really happened yet.
I felt like I'd been watching this film for about 5 hours when I was 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
I found it like, I mean, I like slow, boring sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I found this really hard to deal with. I found myself tuning out a lot.
Yeah.
I just wasn't engaged that much, but at the same token, I kind of like afterwards, I was like, I never want to watch that again. But I kind of would like to see the cut that didn't have all the extra stuff in, because I'm kind of like intrigued as to if that makes it any better, or does it make less sense?
Yeah, ours was like what 2 hours 56, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's pretty much 3 hours.
Yeah.
I think there were a lot of charming things about Dune, and I can 100% see why it has become the cult film that it is.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that if you want to dive into that world, then you're going to get more out of it. But you have to put a lot of effort in.
Yeah.
And really, you probably need to have read the book.
I think,
or you need all the extra.
I feel like I want to read the book rather than what. If I had to go through Dune again, I would read the book rather than watch the movie.
Yeah, I think you get more from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm intrigued by the idea of Paul Atreides and what he represented and what he was supposed to be in this universe.
Yeah.
I like the top line of the story quite a lot.
Yeah, so for me, like top line, it was hard work. I think like watching this was hard work. For me, the story, like I like sci-fi as well. When I was younger, I used to read like a fair amount of sci-fi books, not the epic style that you guys did, I think, but I really like sci-fi movies.
You got to read Foundation.
Really?
You got to read through Foundation one time.
Okay.
There's actually Asimov wrote a few big epic sagas, and then in the 80s, he wrote them, a lot of them in the sort of 50s and 60s, and he wrote like the robot novels that iRobot's based on, all of those kind of stuff.
Okay.
And he wrote the Foundation series, and there's another series that I can't remember the name of, but he wrote a few books that link them all together.
Oh, really? That's
so there's actually like 25 books that he wrote as disparate things originally, and then he kind of structured them and connected them. And it's like you can watch this entire timeline of a universe that's something like 25 millennia long or something like that, 25,000 years or something.
I mean, he wrote stories over, like, you could start a book and 10,000 years would go by in that book. And the book would be 100 pages.
Oh, gosh.
So,
yeah, it's some good stuff. And I guess kind of like if you're...
He's the Tolkien of space.
Yeah.
Space Tolkien.
Space Tolkien. I probably quite like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think similar to you guys. It was just too long, really. But it was an interesting story. It's just I was not interested to learn about it because the film was too much like hard work, basically, to sit through.
Fundamentally, David Lynch was the wrong man for the job.
Yeah, I think this was the big problem. David Lynch is not a story guy.
No.
And this film is all story.
Yeah.
So why would you hire the guy who is most notably not a story guy?
Because he was the hot property of the time.
Story. Well, sure.
He was the left field choice. He turned down Return of the Jedi to do Dune.
Really?
Well, he shouldn't have done either.
Which he picked up because Ridley Scott dropped out.
Now, Ridley Scott
dropped out of Dune.
would have done a good job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And do you know what he made instead? Blade Runner.
Oh,
so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dune had to die so that other great franchises could live.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
You know, when I think back on Dune, I don't remember the hours I spent sweating through the movie. I just remember a pretty cool story. You know, I watched this... I refreshed on this 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't asked, sorry. When did you see it for the first time?
For the first time? Boy. The first time I saw it, I've only seen this twice. So I saw it 2 weeks ago and watched it all the way through.
Yep.
And I probably just dipped in and out of it on television maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But I just turned it on because, you know, when you hear about it's this cult sci-fi movie, I'm always interested in cult sci-fi movies. And then it comes on telly and you're like, oh, okay, I'll switch over to it.
Yeah.
And then you watch it and it's a bit naff, so you don't pay that much attention to it.
Yeah.
So maybe 10 years ago I had it on the background in my parents' kitchen while I was
doing something
else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom, when did you first see this film?
So I would say the first time that I saw this film was last week.
Okay.
But my introduction to Dune wasn't the film, wasn't the book. It was actually the video game in the early 90s. And I think it was actually the second video game, Dune 2. And it was one of those, like, top-down kind of games where you, like a bit like SimCity, where you have to build your spice mine and defend it from other factions, and you have to expand your thing, which I suck at. It's like a strategy game. I am so bad at those. And I could never get very far with it at all. And I have...
play it.
Huh?
No, I want to play it.
You'd love it. Like, you really would. I'll find a link to, like, you can emulate it and stuff now, I think. But so I remember that, and I always remember thinking, oh yeah, I'd quite like to play more of this. And I have this really vague recollection of me and my dad watching Dune. But I don't know if that's... Like, I feel like I couldn't have watched the whole film. Like,
who can?
So part of me wonders whether, like, did we watch it because we had the video game, and did I watch all of it, or did I wander off, or like, because I think he's got the book as well, so I think he probably read it in the 60s, because I think the copy of the book we've got is like a paperback from like 60s or 70s. Yeah. So, you know, I have that kind of vague memory, but it's not clear enough for me to know I definitely watched it when I was 11 or whatever I would have been.
Yeah.
Or 12 when I was playing that video game. So yeah, I'm kind of a bit kind of like fuzzy.
Not sure.
So I can only guarantee that I definitely saw it for the first time last week.
Okay. I mean, for me, I definitely have no recollection anyway of even seeing this in bits on TV.
Right.
So it was, last weekend was the first time I watched this. It was a treat.
You loved it.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's
see. Does anyone have any like favourite moments, particularly?
There are a ton of big moments in this film.
My favourite moment's not a big moment.
What's your favourite moment?
My favourite moment is when Jürgen Prochnow and Carl McLachlan rock up somewhere, and Jürgen Prochnow's like, "Hello, I'm whoever I am of the house of whatever it is, and I am the lord of all these wonderful people."
The House Atreides.
There you go. And this is my son Paul.
All right, I'm Paul.
and I was like, no, okay, that's my favourite moment of the entire film. Just like, and that's my son Paul.
Nice.
As much as, you know, I have a friend whose name is Paul, and he's cool. He's a deeply cool guy, but Paul is not the action hero name.
It's not.
No, it's really not, is it?
Let's not take anything away from Paul's listening out there. It's
Paul.
It's not the world's coolest name. It's not like Tyson or... This is Paul.
Tyson's not a cool name.
Well, you know, you're right, it's not.
I think
it doesn't
it's a
scream
tough, it's a tough
hero,
guy name.
does it?
It is, yeah.
You know,
no, it doesn't scream.
Yeah,
hero,
it doesn't scream hero.
So this is Paul.
So what's your favourite moment then?
It's such a quotable film, isn't it?
Really?
Yeah.
He's
the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah. Okay.
Father, the sleeper has awoken. What's in the box? Pain. There are a lot of great moments.
See,
in this film.
I associate what's in the box with Seven.
Yeah,
well, sure.
same.
But if you'd have seen Dune first,
Yeah,
you'd be like, Brad Pitt, why are you stealing
Why are you quoting Dune?
Dune?
Yeah.
And a lot of these big Paul Atreides, these Carl McLachlan moments where he has to deliver just the cheesiest lines in history. Mm-hmm. He must have been thinking, like, what is this line?
Yeah.
This is part of the weirding way.
I think
it's mad.
I think so. It seems like David Lynch disconnected from this movie at the script stage.
Yeah,
like, and
really
he said this himself. Like David Lynch usually gets final cut on the movie. So basically, the final editing process he gets to oversee, and he gets to pick, and that didn't happen on this film.
Yeah,
and. It seems like, I think I read a quote something like, as soon as he knew that he didn't have final cut, he kind of phoned it in. And he's described it as being like one of the worst, well, if not the worst experience of his career.
Wow.
To the point where he won't talk about it very much. He won't do special edition commentaries or anything like that. He won't get involved in making of, because
wow,
that annoys me. To be honest,
but it's one of those things like, well, it depends on. When you look at someone like him, he has a very particular way of working, and if you impose a structure or rules, or you impose, if the producer's saying we're just going to change things that you decide, it becomes a horrible environment to work in. But I guess he couldn't just walk.
That's the life of 99% of directors.
It absolutely is. Yeah, I 100% agree.
It's him just flexing his.
But I mean, look at it. He's uncompromisingly him. Like he's never been that guy that would do one for the condo, one for the heart.
Yeah.
He's not that person that would work that way. Mm-hmm. And I think this experience has made him even more because I'm not particular. I mean, I can't really think of a movie of his that I like.
No.
I like the first season of Twin Peaks, and that's about it. Because that's probably like the most accessible thing he's done.
Yeah.
But I don't begrudge him being weird for the sake of being weird, But definitely the wrong person for this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I really liked Paul Atreides and his arc, and that was the story of the film, which is great because that's the highlight of the film for me.
Yeah.
And all of his weird lines. Fear is the mind killer. It's all good. Just weird.
Yeah, it's all there. It's very peculiar.
And watching Paul go through his Matrix moment and learning that he's the product of centuries of selective breeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you do wonder,
it's the anomaly, isn't
how
it?
is he the chosen one? And you find out that he's literally just the product of psychics breeding psychics.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but he's also the anomaly because it's,
He's a man.
He wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
In existence.
Yeah, and the reason no one knew that he was going to be the Kwisatz Haderach was because no one knew that he was who he was. He was never supposed to be born.
No.
Yeah. But, Luke Skywalker, Neo, it's the same. Jesus, it's the same thing.
It's the same, yeah.
Yeah.
I really struggle to define a favourite moment.
What about when the Baron starts floating on strings?
I just didn't get that.
I mean,
Baron Harkonnen.
Carl McLachlan looking like a boss on top of a worm. I mean,
sure, that looks,
freaky little
quite
sister.
Fun.
His freaky ass little sister.
Terrifying.
I did not. Yeah, she freaked me out.
She was great.
Not a fan.
But wasn't she great?
I mean, she was great.
Because she was
great little performance.
Yeah,
but
they're like, hey, we need this 5-year-old girl to be creepy AF, and she does it. She bashes it out.
She delivers. She is super creepy. Yeah, I really struggled to pick favorite moment
because you didn't like any of it, or because
I think
it's just such a jumble of a film.
It was in my head like it's such a jumble.
Yeah.
I literally had to pause it, get up, and walk around to make sure that I didn't fall asleep.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is like I found myself tuning out.
Yeah.
Like significantly, probably every about 20 minutes to every half an hour.
It was about half an hour for me.
Like trying to make sure that I kept track of everything. Because looking back on what I watch now, I can't remember any of the... I could barely keep track of the names. I could barely remember any of the politics stuff.
Yep.
All I really remember is there were some psychics. They had a son as opposed to a daughter. That's Carl McLachlan. And he's going to go and join some rebels and overthrow the people that control the spice.
Yeah.
That's the story.
That is the story.
But unfortunately, they seem to have written it from the point of view that the political machinations of these big political bodies is the story.
Yeah.
And he's just...
Imagine in the book...
It is.
That's the right way to look at
it. Yeah.
Because you're looking at it from the perspective of the universe.
Yeah, and you want the story.
Asimov does write his stories from that grander perspective.
But you still have a very clear.
You don't need to know who the Emperor is. You don't need to know about. You do need to know about the female psychics. You don't even necessarily need to know about the other psychics who use their powers to bend light and expand the universe.
But yeah, well, exactly, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if you can direct, it's essentially the same story as Star Wars. But Star Wars does it so much better because it gives you Luke near enough right at the beginning.
When you need it, yeah.
Yeah, and like, so you're kind of, that other stuff is going on.
Mm-hmm.
It just sets up its universe much more concisely.
Yeah.
And it sets up its hero very quickly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which this doesn't particularly.
He
Like, it's a
doesn't come
while.
into
Like, you see Paul for a while before you start to get the sense that he's going to be the guy you follow.
Well, also because there are so many people to try and keep track of.
Exactly,
so the minute it starts, you're like, oh my god, wait, who's on this side? Who's good? Who's evil? Who am I supposed to be following? Like, as a viewer, you just need a bit more direction from the film. Initially to kind of to capture your attention and to engage you.
Yeah.
And all you get is like kind of like a Game of Thrones overview, like this is this house, this is this house, this is this house, this is this house, and these people are nice, these people are bad, but you don't even get
and they shift a lot as well.
Yeah.
I think it would have been easier if the characters, all of the characters, they warp and change with the environment around them. Paul's teachers and friends betray him and then come back on side and all over the course of this film. And it makes me think, when you mention Star Wars, you have a larger story told over a trilogy. Dune really could have done with that.
But even so,
because you could have taken out the Emperor. You could have taken out the other psychic house. You could have kept it at the Baron.
Yeah. But then, unfortunately,
Dune, Arrakis.
What you've done is you've just remade Star Wars 7 years after it was released. So, like, I mean, that's the trouble, because you're just stripping it out so much.
That's why I think the choice was made to keep it as one film, probably to try and avoid that.
I think I actually wrote in my notes that it is more suits like a long form series like Game of Thrones. Like I haven't seen Game of Thrones because that doesn't really interest me, but it's that you can see how that
format
method of format and of storytelling when you've got so many characters interacting and you're killing off so many people so quickly and all that kind of stuff.
And like you say, Adam, like when characters kind of have their own, like sideline characters have their own demons to fight, and they make mistakes and they make the wrong choices. And in a book as well, that's fine because you have the space to follow it. But in this, it's so condensed. Like you're like, I thought 10 minutes ago you were fine. Yes.
Which, like, I'm still not 100% clear, like, what his character was there for.
No.
He was the Baron's sidekick, I guess.
He was supposed to be, like, super evil, but the other bloke seemed a bit more evil.
Way more evil.
Yeah.
Way more evil.
Yeah.
He was uglier.
Yeah. It's just weird. It was so strange.
It was peculiar.
Yeah.
There was so much that was peculiar about this
David
film,
Lynch,
though.
isn't it? I mean,
sure.
But it's funny, you mentioned Game of Thrones, and I think about as much happens in 7 seasons of Game of Thrones as in the 3 hours in Dune.
Well, yeah, that's exactly my point.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in Dune is just... Everything really, apart from the hero's journey, is balls to the wall, pedal to the floor, tell this story as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Carl McLaughlin's just, I'm just kind of cruising around in the middle, gaining exponential power.
Yeah,
exactly.
Go.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, there's so much, because the way this version of the film particularly is set up is all of the boring history that you need to know or are told you need to know.
10,191.
Is all front loaded, and it switches you off
absolutely
right at the beginning.
Loved it.
Really?
Yeah.
I liked it initially,
really weird,
but I forgot it all.
Yeah, see, I couldn't keep track.
I liked it because I was like, oh, this is actually this is kind of interesting for like 5 minutes, but I think it goes on for 15, and then I kind of lost track of what was happening, and then I'd forgotten what they said at the beginning.
Yes,
and I was like, what?
Yeah, my biggest problem. I liked the opening thing where it kind of sets the universe and it sets the larger story,
because that's the added in for TV bit.
Right.
If you went to see this in the cinema, they actually gave you a cheat sheet. To help you keep track. Yeah, that's how bad, that's how badly received it was, and how little faith the production had in the audience that were going to view it. That they had to give you this is who this person is, and this is
well,
what has happened to that person.
Game of Thrones has a cheat sheet when you get it on DVD. Like, it's got like a little,
in the books,
family tree.
It has family trees in the books.
Right.
But when they give you the whole larger story, I was really excited by it because I thought, oh, great. There's this big, huge space opera plot. And the first thing that was interesting to me was the fact they had these psychics that travel around the universe at light speed, using their amazing powers, and they're basically like ageless beings. And I was like, that's cool. Let's see them.
Yeah. And you don't really, do you?
You kind of see a weird sort of
blob in a tank
monster.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That thing wasn't really cool. That wasn't what. And then it kind of drops you on this sort of. Because you Paul Atreides, who's a duke's son, he's basically essentially almost like a hedge knight as soon as his dad dies.
Yeah. Well, and you don't really love him initially. He's like a privileged, kid having lessons.
He is. He's a Mary Sue, a Marty Stew,
right?
Who's amazing at everything he does.
Yeah.
We later find out because he's, a genetic marvel.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. Unlike Luke and Neo, he doesn't have to control his power.
No.
And
he doesn't really have to overcome much.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas they do. They have to learn, I am this thing, and now I need to get it under control.
Yeah.
Whereas he's just like,
I
can do that. Great.
And he's really good.
Yeah, and he spices up, and suddenly he can punch old women in the face with his mind. Brilliant.
There's something, like, I could never keep track of, are these people reading each other's minds, or are they just talking to themselves?
Oh, so that was there's a big part of this film, and a lot of it is thought bubbles.
Yeah. And I'm just like, are they thinking that because they're supposing it? Are they reading that person's mind?
Yeah.
Are they just relaying this information to the audience via voiceover? Because the rule is
really unclear.
Their thinking is very unclear, and you kind of only have to figure it out after you've seen the film. I suppose the rule is, they're thinking all these things, but if you're a psychic, you can hear it inside the film, which is a weird sort of fourth wall breaking.
Yeah,
like I couldn't work out who was psychics because of that. Because
like in the film, if you take away the fact that anybody's psychic, it becomes really obvious what the purpose of that is.
Yeah.
It's so that you as a viewer can understand what people are thinking. But
now they're psychics.
Yeah, you're like, wait.
There are some people that can hear what the person's telling the audience.
Yeah. It's really weird.
It's weird. Not necessarily bad.
No,
interesting.
But just,
I know. It's one of those things like that as a device. That's a really cool idea. That's a really fun thing you could have a lot of fun playing with. But
it's a third dimension to the narrative.
Set it up so the audience get it.
Yeah.
Or do it in a way that, like, it could be as simple as adding a specific type of reverb to a voice that signifies,
or like a light or something, just any signifier that people
spotlights in the room. Right?
Here we go. This is internal. And this is being overheard.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
because that for me, like, guilty confession here. When I was younger, I used to watch Sunset Beach with my sister. Sunset Beach, is that what it was called? Beach. terrible. Like Days of Our Lives. Right. It was just awful. And they used to do that. They used to have these like 20-minute monologues just so that the audience could understand what people were actually thinking and what their motives were. And they'd just be stood like Joey in Friends when he's just awful, like staring at the camera talking. And when I first saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's like exactly the same. But I'm so confused as to whether I'm supposed to know.
Perhaps the makers of Sunset Beach were huge Dune fans, and that's just like
maybe. So does anyone have a favourite character? We've chatted a lot around this, but like,
I like Paul Atreides.
Yeah.
I like him just fine. I like him the same way I like Neo.
He's all right.
And the same, like, and Rick from The Mummy, and like he's kind of the guy, isn't he? But
he's a lot less annoying than Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
less whiny.
Fair. Yeah, he is less whiny.
I quite like Patrick Stewart.
He is good in this,
just because he was just like, and he does not look any different.
Right off the Shakespeare stage.
Yes, into Dune.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can do sci-fi now. I'm going off to the Enterprise.
I was like, why is Captain Picard in this?
Yeah. And his sidekick was Al from Quantum Leap.
Yeah,
in Stockwell, and I was just like, and when they walked on together, I was like, oh my god, that's like 80s TV sci-fi, like, you know.
Yeah, because I mean, looking at it at the time, it was quite a strong.
Oh, it's a very strong cast. Yeah, very strong.
So, but yet no one else really as a character. I think because again, they're so compressed. They don't have enough time.
I quite liked Max von Sydow.
Yeah,
he was the guy
on Dune.
Yeah, so when they meet up...
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's the one who Jürgen Prochnow says, and this is my son, Paul. That's who he's talking to.
When he introduces him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is he kind of like a revolutionary leader?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he plays that kind of a bit, doesn't he, Max von Sydow?
So I kind of like... There were lots of people I was kind of... Oh, that's kind of interesting.
I want to learn more about him, though.
That's exactly what... Yeah, it's exactly what I'm saying. I want to know more about
Dune
those people.
prequel. You want it, you got it. Featuring Max von Sydow. Who would play a young Max von Sydow?
Oh, it's got to be a Skarsgård, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a really good shout.
I don't know which one.
It could be Stellan.
We should write this.
Stellan Skarsgård is in the remake of Dune.
Is he really?
We need to come on to the remake, because...
That's true. Well, and also we should probably talk about the other version of Dune that was going to happen and never did.
Oh, the earlier one.
Yeah. So there was... it was... I'm probably going to pronounce this horribly wrong. But
Stellan Skarsgård is the Baron in this.
Oh,
so he's
really?
going to play this over-the-top, slime-faced floating man.
I can see that.
Wow. Okay.
I can see that. That part was originally going to be played by Orson Welles.
Really?
In the Jodorowsky version. So he was the guy. Yeah, he was the guy that was going to make it in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, 71, I think.
Yeah, and they were going to make this movie, and it was going to be like art direction by Mobius and H.R. Geiger, soundtrack by Pink Floyd.
Oh yes, Pink Floyd.
And like they had this great kind of cast lined up, including Orson Welles. And there's a documentary about the attempt to make that movie,
really?
And it's got loads of the sketches and the stuff. And I've never seen that doc, and I really really want to see it because that sounds really fascinating. And I'd be really interested to figure out what that take was going to be on it and how they were going to go about doing it.
Differed.
Yeah. Because I think there were some really interesting concepts with that, and then it kind of lost its way here with David Lynch, and now they're gearing up to remake it with
in 2020, right?
Denis Villeneuve, who directed the Blade Runner sequel.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So he has providence of taking this stuff and doing a very good job with it.
Good movie too.
Yeah. I've only seen, in fact, the only one I've seen of his is the Blade Runner 2049, which I thought was really good. But then, Sicario's
very good.
I've heard, and I tried to watch Arrival, but I got a bit bored of that. I didn't sit through. I think I might have been in the wrong frame of mind to sit and watch that. So that's one I'll revisit at some point.
Yeah.
But the cast they're racking up for the new version of Dune.
This is such a beautified film. So they're recasting Patrick Stewart with Josh Brolin.
All right, okay. I can see that.
Carl McLachlan into Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
It's younger, maybe not necessarily better looking, because young Carl McLachlan was a bit of a babe. Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson.
Oh yeah, I see that. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Duke Leto, played by Oscar Isaac.
See, that I find that's a bit weird. I still think they should go for someone older.
Oscar Isaac's oldish.
He's not, well, I don't know, he seems younger.
Is he 40?
Yeah, but that doesn't seem, old enough.
Would have had him
Paul's the youngest,
Would have had him at 20.
Yeah.
He's supposed to have had other kids.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like
he'd be the oldest.
Oh, I don't know.
He'd be the oldest, right?
He'd be the oldest.
Because, yeah.
Oh, I thought he was...
I kind of feel like you want Paul to be about 25, between 20 and 25, and then Leto to be between...
Like 50?
50 to 55-ish.
Sure.
Which
Maybe
I think
they'll age him up.
Prochnow looked at the younger end of that scale, but he was still believably Carl McLachlan's dad, right? You know? Whereas I can't...
No one in this room's going to get it, but Jürgen Prochnow in this movie looks exactly like the king from Final Fantasy 15. Look it up. It's weird. Meanwhile, we've got the villains in Dune 2020.
Yes.
Previously mentioned Stellan Skarsgård's playing Baron Harkonnen, but then his bodyguards... Javier Bardem and Dave Bautista.
Wow.
Just massive-jawed, barrel-chested men.
Yeah.
Everyone in this, and we've got Jason Momoa playing one of Paul's teachers, Duncan Idaho. Was he one of the teachers, Duncan Idaho?
Yeah, he's kind of like
an advisor.
Yeah, he's kind of almost like Paul's best mate, but not quite. I feel like he was another character who's kind of like.
Absolutely.
He wasn't who I was thinking of. Yes, he's the guy who shows up in 2 scenes for no reason.
Yeah, because their farewell when he says goodbye to his friend is like it's quite emotional.
I thought they were going to bang.
I mean, I was like, are they in love? Or
they grasped each other very tightly,
but
as tightly as possible.
You want to know
their
why
buttocks were heaving.
You want to know why they're such good friends because you're like, what,
you don't get that backstory.
Did you save someone's life, or what happened?
Yeah, because essentially he's got 3 teachers. He's got Dean Stockwell, he's got Patrick Stewart, and then he's got Freddie Jones, who's got he's giving Rachel Weisz a run for the money with the eyebrows in this movie. His eyebrows are just like
crazy.
Like, it's not often you get an eyebrow that can pretty much touch your hairline.
Yeah.
Yes, they are extreme.
I mean, they're wigs, right? They're face wigs.
Do they? No.
They murk.
Is there such a thing as an eyebrow wig?
Almost certainly.
I feel like they may have been overemphasized by the makeup team.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I'm going to look up
eyebrow
wigs.
I've seen some weird eyebrows before, but eyebrow wigs definitely exist. There's a current benefit campaign of a girl with one giant eyebrow.
I've not seen that.
But yeah, that's got to be an eyebrow wig.
Eyebrow wig is actually a thing. Yeah. I was just like, they've got to have a special name, right? But no, just eyebrow wig.
Duncan Idaho's the person who tells Duke Leto that there is a resistance and many, many, many people living on Arrakis.
Yeah.
That's his second scene, and that's all he's for.
Yeah, passing information.
He's sort of pointless as a man surrounded in a universe where psychics exist. You could write him out of this story very easily.
Yeah,
you could write a lot of people out of stories
absolutely.
In a world where you can put psychics in and say, "Well, I'm sensing there are many people living on Arrakis."
Yeah, there's a disturbance in the Force.
There you go.
As if a million souls all cried out and were silenced. What is the point of calling this planet Arrakis? That drove me mad.
It seems to have like several names, right? And
yeah.
Just like Paul Atreides or Paul Mavi.
He wants to call himself something else to do with moons, right?
Yeah. He's got 4 names, because he's the Kwisatz Haderach. He's Paul Atreides. He is what's his name that means death, or he has another name.
Yeah. I can't remember. This is my point. I just couldn't keep track.
I'm trying to look, and I can't remember.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can.
I just don't know as well. Like in a remake of it. I mean, I'm sure. Hopefully, it will be better. But how? I still don't know how they're going to get all the information.
Yeah.
And the fact, like, our biggest issue from the sound of it, or mine and yours, Tom's, I think, is we want to know more about the characters. Like, there is more to know, and you want to know it because you want to be more invested in them, and you want to understand the character development and their stories a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so I just question how they're going to do that in another film.
No, that's the thing. So that's what I'm really fascinated to see is, do they go down this same road of trying to tell the whole thing in a single movie? Mm-hmm. Given the way that Hollywood is now, if they could start a franchise, they absolutely will.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they'll do, but I kind of feel like, how do you do it without telling all the boring stuff first? And if you do that, then you kill your franchise. That's the conundrum, isn't it? Like, how do you, unless you go the Star Wars route and tell Paul's story and then do a prequel and get all the politics in,
which kind of tired, I think.
Exactly. So I'm fascinated to see what they do with this, because I can't, like, which way you cut it, you're either going to be you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. It seems to me.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure you need to make, if you have a strong cast like this, like June 2020 has, and an established story, a smaller baked-in audience, it almost doesn't matter if your first film doesn't work. If you make enough films, people will watch them.
Yeah.
I think The Hunger Games.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see how they're gonna. I'm just fascinated. It's like, how can they do? Like, how are they gonna put it off? I can't.
How is it gonna work?
Yeah, I'd love to know what they've put in this script that has made all of those people attach themselves to it. And I'd imagine a big percentage is Denis Villeneuve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're just trusting him to get it right.
I've not read the book, but trying to be objective in the fact that, like, obviously it was a bit of hard work watching the film.
Yeah.
The story is interesting. Like, I would go and watch something that I hoped had been done in a more pacey kind of way and easier to digest, I guess.
Yeah.
I would go and see that because I think the story is interesting.
It's an exciting enough story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like when I was making notes. That was the thing that I that was kind of my favourite thing.
You want it to be like an HBO or Netflix series,
yeah,
really?
I was gonna say in my head it kind of fits being like a really high budget mini series that just gets it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't know how they'll do that in a film, like we say, unless they franchise it. But well, I guess 2020.
We'll find out. Yeah. Be a podcast group outing to the cinema.
So what is odd about this film? I mean, I'm going to go first. Everything for me. I really struggled watching this.
Do you think it's that the Harkonnens are odd?
Yes, but they're supposed to be kind of like the kind of grim, greasy, kind of nasty bad guys, industrial like sludgy
slime, wires sticking into their brain, causing brain fluid to leak down their faces, and they float.
But it doesn't make any sense. I don't get it.
Because you don't know what the Harkonnens are.
Yeah, that's the trouble. Yeah,
and that's the trouble with the film. Like, there's no information to explain to you why.
You know, the worm is the spice is the worm. What is the spice? What is spice? Are there many worms?
There's hundreds of worms.
Yeah.
I think the spice is just a commodity. It's like an ore, isn't it? It's like,
but they make people immortal. We don't know how that happens. We know that Paul becomes that. It's all very strange.
Yeah.
But I don't think the movie really gets like deeply weird until they hit Arrakis.
Yeah, but then
that's fair.
Yeah, but there's a lot of the dream sequency stuff which is very David Lynch, and that kind of that's all quite weird, and
it's just too much. It's like it's too much going on to even try and keep track of the less odd parts.
Yeah.
I'm still annoyed the film is called Dune.
Yeah.
Why not Arrakis?
It annoys me. Well, the only time they ever call it Dune is when they say Arrakis, also called Dune, a couple times.
At the beginning, isn't it?
So
true,
why call it Dune at all?
Yeah.
Call it anything else. Call it Spice for all I care.
Or call it
They
Dune
should have
the
called
whole
it
way
Spice
through.
World, the movie.
Yes. Yes.
Cameos, fine.
Yeah.
Could have called it the Kwisatz Haderach. The child of the Bene Gesserit.
Well, like you say, or just call it Dune all the way through.
Or just call it Dune all the way through.
Yeah.
Just pick
it's
one.
It's needlessly complicated saying Arrakis also called Dune a couple times, just so it seems like they've done that just so they could call the movie Dune.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how it's referred to in the book. Maybe it's that they only know the true planet's name when they get there or something. You know, there's just so much that you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that might be
Drives
why.
me mad.
It does seem to be like we're
It's
not going to
really
tell you.
odd.
We're not going to tell you loads of things, but we are going to give everything 4 names.
Yeah, just
Everything
to
has
confuse
4
you
names.
even more. Like everything. Yeah, there's so much. There's so much that's odd about this film.
Yeah.
The odd thing about this film, I think, is the extreme level of detail with no context.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like some
That's again
sections
very
are so
Lynch,
vague.
very David Lynch. And
but the bits you want to know more about are really vague and it's like barely touched on.
Yeah.
And then the stuff that has no bearing on the story, you're like,
You
what?
find out everything
and
about.
you're like, why am I seeing this?
I feel like David Lynch makes movies so that the audience go away with a feeling, as opposed to a concrete idea of what has happened.
Yeah.
You're supposed to just kind of be affected by it as opposed to understand it.
I mean, I was.
A lot. Yeah.
I was confused.
You walk away with a lot of questions.
But the trouble with this is it has such a strong story that you can't ignore that.
No.
So if you take something like his like Mulholland Drive or whatever, where it is just like, there's just, you just kind of have a sense of it. You don't really understand necessarily, or you don't, and then you come to something like this. It's like this needs clear storytelling. It needs absolutely clear,
which I think Blade
techniques.
I think Dune 2020 will be able to do.
I think so too. Yeah. That
will be really good if it can.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I think a version of Dune that is laser focused on telling a story will be a very, very strong film.
Yeah, it's made me want to watch that film, which I didn't before.
I was just about to say that watching this has made me want to go and watch it, and I will go and
I'll see it in
watch
the cinema.
it. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I'll
see how long it is before I make that decision.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Anyone else got? I mean, it's kind of all a bit confusing and odd, but
it's a bizarre artifact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there anything that is still good about this film? Is it what holds up? What works?
So it's the same story that a lot of stories have been since the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's a hero's journey. So that holds up.
I was going to say, wasn't he the bad guy in Smurfs?
That's Gargamel. The main story, the through line, holds up because you'll recognise it in a bunch of other stories.
Absolutely.
Good odds this came out before half of them you're thinking of. So that holds up.
Yeah.
I think the universe design is there.
Yeah, I don't think it is in the film, but I think it's there.
The set design isn't wonderful.
No.
But the universe design is absolutely there. And there's a whole reality here that you can really sort of get yourself submerged in. I think if you watch Dune, you'll be interested to read the book. Even if you're not kicked over the line to read the book, you'll be interested in what the true story of this film is.
I'm struggling to remember if I have tried to read the book. I feel like if I did, I didn't get very far.
See, I would totally try reading the book after this.
There are Cliff's Notes.
Tom, what about you? What holds up? What's good?
There are parts of it that look really nice. There are other bits that really don't. I think some of the special effects are actually really poor for the time.
Yes.
When you compare it to things like Ghostbusters, which came out the same year, you compare it to things like even like Star Wars that was going before it. Like it looks even 2001, there's like
the weird light shield thing he used looked dreadful. It looks 10 years old.
Yeah,
that special effect.
I'm kind of willing to give it a bit of benefit of the doubt, given that we watched like the crappiest version of this possible. Given that it was the TV cut and it had probably been through the actual film they'd used had been through the ringer, but as they re-edited it all that time. But I kind of like. Yeah, there were bits of it I thought, that looks awful, but some of it looks really nice. And then, I don't know. I think for me, it doesn't hold up because it's just not clear enough. And I think that we're going to find out I think Denis Villeneuve's going to either prove or disprove whether this can be made into a movie or not.
Yeah,
I agree. This is the ultimate crucible for him.
Yeah. And he could walk out of this and it could just not work. And I think people won't say, "Oh, Denis Villeneuve's failed."
Damage his career.
Well, I don't know. I think people would just turn around and go, "You know what? You just can't make that into a movie."
Just
be like Watchmen.
This cast, if you've got this cast and you can't make it work,
it's never gonna work.
Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, Timothy Chalamet. It's Oscar Isaac. It should be plain sailing.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you, Tom. I think for me it doesn't work because even like you say, the effects it looks so dated. And when you think like Star Wars, like you say, like came out before this,
Star Wars looks a lot fresher.
Yeah. Absolutely. Even now with like if you asked someone who hadn't really watched many movies from I don't know 2000s to watch these side by side,
Yeah.
they would 100% say that Dune was
the newer film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason, and the fact that it's just for me, it was just such a confused film to watch for so many reasons. I couldn't say that it was still a good movie if it ever was.
Yeah. The plot, I think, holds up.
Mm-hmm.
The story, what we know of the story, holds up and is interesting in its own unique way. Yeah. But very little else does.
Yeah.
Fair. Anyone got any final thoughts to add?
I suppose we haven't really talked about Kyle MacLachlan's delivery.
What about it?
Do you want to do his line?
I just want to do the lines. Is he a victim of that script? Or is he just doing a great job of hamming it up the way he needed to?
I think it's probably a combination of hamming it up a little bit, maybe, but the script not maybe being great. David Lynch not really caring about the script. David Lynch not really caring about directing him too much.
It's very clear there's no direction going on with these characters.
And it being his first movie, where he's essentially
and
the lead.
Yeah, that's
so
a lot of
like
weight to carry.
So I think it's just him being young and kind of like, it's just diving in and not having someone that's gonna,
because he's marching across the set, delivering these lines like he's on the stage.
Yeah.
Father,
but don't forget,
the sleeper has awoken.
He's acting against people like Patrick Stewart, and of course,
Patrick Stewart's given it as well.
Exactly. So you've got that. That's the feedback you're getting. And if David Lynch is just like not bothered, then
and that's what you're playing opposite. Then
you play to it, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's weird. I think that's just a combination of stuff for him.
Yeah. I didn't hate the performance. I just thought it was
no.
I've got to say that
interesting.
I've never loved any of his performances.
What, Kyle MacLachlan?
Yeah, just putting that out there.
I think he's great as Agent Cooper.
I've not seen
Twin Peaks.
Not seen it.
Okay.
Maybe he is.
Kyle MacLachlan is...
I'm not sure I've seen him in anything else. To be fair, but I think
he's just okay.
I think he's pretty good. He's Kyle MacLachlan is Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah. I was just very surprised to see him in the lead because I didn't know anything about this really before I watched it, so I didn't know it was him.
Well, he had to come from somewhere, right? And it had to be from somewhere weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was. I mean, Twin Peaks is what just launched him.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel. I can't think of anything else before that I would go, oh yeah, Kyle MacLachlan.
Well, it's either Dune or Twin Peaks, whichever one of the weirdness happens to you first. Yeah. You'd be like, that's Kyle MacLachlan. I know him. He plays right weirdos.
But if you say Kyle MacLachlan, I just think Agent Cooper. That's the role I associate him with.
He was in a prime time TV show.
Oh, was he?
Relatively recently.
It was wasn't it Twin Peaks? Because that was fairly recent.
No. I'm sure it was a romantic thing. In fact, what we're talking about, he was in Sex and the City, right?
Yeah, he's Trey in Sex and the City.
I never watched that.
Meh in that as well.
Yeah,
his character's
kind of an arsehole.
Yeah, he's kind of a bit of an arsehole. He's all right, but yeah. And so maybe that's why. I think that's probably the first thing I ever saw him in properly.
You're associating him with
that.
Yeah,
probably to
no, it's the guy from Sex and the City.
Well, I don't hate him.
I was thinking of. He's in The Good Wife.
Oh yeah, he is. See, I like that TV series, and he's only
Of course, he was in How I Met Your Mother for 4 years.
Right. Well, I never watched that either.
He's had
in season 4
a very successful career off the back of playing these oddballs for David Lynch. Very successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah. The other big
Kyle MacLachlan.
The other big movie he was in with Lynch was Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that was that's put him up there. Which I think was pre-Twin Peaks.
Oh, interesting.
I think.
Well, I think that's us.
Yeah.
All done.
That was us talking about Dune. 10 out of 10. Go watch it now.
Go watch the new one. Because we're all intrigued.
Go watch the new one in 2 years.
In 2 years.
No, 1 year. 2020 is next year.
Oh my gosh, it's 2019.
Yeah. Go watch the new one next year.
Yeah.
And the cast is really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
To be continued.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
No.
Must-see films.
Maybe 2. 2.5 at a push.
2.5 times 4 out of 10.
So, yeah, that's it. We'll be talking next week about... I have no idea. What are we talking about next week?
What do you think we're talking about?
Oh!
What do you think we're talking about? I need to do my bad fake version of my own accent. What do you think we're talking about?
So we're talking next week about This Is Spinal Tap.
Hello, Cleveland.
So tune in next week to hear what we think about that. I think I think it might be interesting because there might be some loves and some not so much loves.
It's going to go up to 11.
Thanks for listening and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
This podcast was recorded in the Upbeat studio in Soho. For studio inquiries, drop us an email on studio@upbeatproductions.com. You can also find us on Twitter. Head to @UpbeatProd to see what we're up to, and @Upbeat_ENTS for our film coverage and entertainment news.